To another Sunday School Short. Today we're in Matthew 27 and Mark 15. Walking through the New Testament chronologically as it happened, as it was written. Like, subscribe, and share. Hit the bell notification for when new Devos come out. God bless you. Share this with somebody else. Matthew 27 is very close to Mark 15, so we're just going to throw in the added differences. We're not going to walk through them because they parallel so closely. The religious leaders took Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor. And Judas took the 30 pieces of silver back to the Roman leaders and said, I have betrayed an innocent man, verse 4. And the Roman leaders, what do we care? This isn't our problem. And then Judas went out and hung himself. The Jewish leaders picked up the coins and said, it wouldn't be right to put these in the temple treasury since it was a payment for murder. Oh my goodness. They bought the Potter's Field, a place called the Potter's Field instead, and made it a seminary for foreigners. I mean, how corrupt were these guys? They knew they committed murder against Jesus, certainly against at least a prophet, what they even believed, but they committed murder, that one man would die to save many. And they recorded their own prophecy by saying that. 11 through 14 is recorded in all four Gospels, being Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Pilate says to Jesus, are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus said, you have said it. When the Jewish leaders made the accusation against him, Jesus remained silent. Don't you hear these charges that they're bringing against you? Again, Jesus remained silent. To Pilate's surprise, it says. Verses 15 through 26, again in all four Gospels, they had to hand Jesus over to the Romans to be crucified. The governor, it was the governor Pilate's custom to release a prisoner during the Passover to the crowd, anyone they wanted. And they had two choices. Barabbas, who was a notorious sinner, a notorious revolutionary, and this is out of Mark 14, who had committed murder in an uprising. Pilate said, would you like me to release Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah? Because Pilate knew that these religious leaders were only doing all this to Jesus out of jealousy. As Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife came to him and said, leave this innocent man alone. I've had nightmares about him. The Jewish leader stirred up the crowd and demanded Barabbas be released, there in Mark. Pilate says, what do you want me to do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? And Mark 15 says, who you call the King of the Jews. The crowd said, crucify him. What crime has he done? Pilate says. And even louder they started yelling, crucify him, crucify him. And he had a bowl of water next to his hands, and he washed his hands, and he said, I am innocent of this man's blood. And the crowd says, we will take responsibility of his death, us and our children. Pilate ordered Jesus to be flogged and turned over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. So he bent into peer pressure instead of standing up for what was right. Pilate was influenced by his own political power, his own political desires to appease the crowd. The Roman soldiers took him, put him in a royal robe. They put a crown of thorns on him. And this isn't the little briars we see here in the South. This was a big, long, like inch-plus long thorns that they pushed into his head. They knelt before him in mock worship. They spit on him. They struck him with a reed stick, which is almost like a bamboo stick on the back of your head. And I can't do this justice in this little format that I have here, and what I try to keep this Bible study in 5 to 8 minutes. There have been massive academic studies on the crucifixion. So I'm just your spark plug. I am just igniting you to search this further. And then verse 31, when they finally tired of mocking him, this is how much torture he went through. They took his robe off, put on his regular clothes, led him away to be crucified, which was like the electric chair of the day. It was a slow death. It was worse than hanging, worse than dying by the sword. It was so cruel. It was only in Roman criminology for about 60 years. On the way, because Jesus had been beaten and flogged so bad, flogged with lead-tipped whips on his back, and he had just been tortured. He couldn't even carry his own cross, which was the final torture that they brought upon people that were being crucified. They came across Simon, who was of Cyrene, and the soldiers made him carry Jesus' cross. They went out to the place called Golgotha, the place of the skull. The soldiers gave him wine mixed with bitter gall, which was a drugged wine. It was good to drug him up so he wouldn't feel as much pain, but he refused it. He knew he had to walk through this, to die for your sin, for my sin, to pay for our penalty. He lived a sinless life, but he died for sinners like me and for you. Do you believe that? Have you accepted that? Verse 35, after they nailed him to the cross, the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. This was about 9 a.m. in the morning. The sign above him said, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified on either side of him. The people were saying, "If you are the Son of God, save yourself. Come down from that cross." And the Roman leaders, or the religious leaders, said, he saved himself, but he can't, or he saved others, but he can't save himself. If he'll come down, we'll believe. And even the 2 men, at first, initially, even the 2 men, we'll find out later that one of them repented at the very last moment of his life. But 2 men ridiculed him as well. From noon to 3, darkness fell across the whole land. And at about 3 p.m., Jesus said, my God, why have you abandoned me?" See, even God the Father had to turn his back. And that's what hell is, to be separated from God. Even God the Father had to turn his back on his Son for a moment. Why have you abandoned me? Why have you forsaken me? We've heard that in others. That was the penalty that he paid. He was separated from his Father for a time. Sour wine and sponge were offered to him, but he rejected it. Then Jesus shouted out again, and then he released his Spirit. The curtain in the sanctuary of the temple tore into from top to bottom. This signifies the separation, being the Holy of Holies, from what is common, or the Holy of Holies where God dwelt and is no more. That had been separated from top to bottom, meaning from heaven. It was God's doing, down, not from split from the bottom up. It was split from the top down, signifying from God to man. God did it. God made us allowed to come to the Holy of Holies, being Jesus. The earth shook, rocks split, tombs opened, bodies of godly men and women were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection and went into Jerusalem. Appeared to many. A Roman soldier said, "This man truly was the Son of God," the last part of verse 54. And 57 through 61 says, as evening approached, Joseph of Arimathea, a rich man, went to Pilate. He was also a member of the Jewish High Council, but he was a follower of Jesus as well. Asked for Jesus' body, and he was able to take it. He took the body and cleaned it, and he put it in a long linen sheet, placed it in a new tomb that had been carved out of rock, and rolled a great stone in front of it. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, were there, saw that from across the way, or the other Mary. Verses 62 through 66, on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders went to Pilate and said, hey, after 3 days, Jesus said he would rise from the dead after 3 days. So we request that you guard the tomb and that you seal it until the 3rd day. This is to prevent the disciples from stealing it and then lying to everyone saying, hey, Jesus is risen. And Pilate agreed to that. Hey, I can't wait to see what is going to happen tomorrow during the resurrection. Join me in these devos. Get together in God's Word with me. Like, subscribe, and share. God bless you.